Hey, Carol, how's it going?
Greetings.
Hey, Ralph, thanks for joining.
Hi.
I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen with the slideshow that I have for tonight. If you could go ahead and put your, I think we'll wait until we have a few more people in. If you wanted to go ahead now and introduce yourself, you can. Otherwise, you can wait a little bit and post into the chat.
Well, since both of you already know me, I'll wait till we get somebody on here I don't know.
Understandable.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Okay, who are you talking?
I'm talking to you, Ralph.
Okay, I'm doing fine. How are you? Haven't
Good.
seen you in a long time.
Doing fine. Doing fine.
I've been trying to stay at home and only running out and then well masked.
Yes, sir. Myself.
Yeah. Sure do miss the good old days. So when we'd have there's a couple of different clubs that I would go to.
Yeah.
Northeast and North Tarrant. Dinner and
I hadn't had good Mexican food in 3 months.
I do pick up to go stuff every once,
Okay.
often enough. But the thing about being around people and having a drink and if you drink or just chatting to people over a meal, that's fun.
Sure. Hello, Janet. Carol Parker here. That's all right. You have to unmute to speak, There you go.
Was unmuted, but
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Doing fine.
Yeah. How are you, Chayton?
I'm good. How are you doing, Janet?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Enjoyed your session there at the convention from the Environmental Democrats.
Oh, thanks a
Good
lot.
job.
Yeah, I was very glad to speak. It was a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely excited for further partnerships with TED that we'll be able to have in the future as well. So that'll be great.
Yeah, we can learn a lot from the other local clubs like Austin's and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely excited to see how things begin to take off.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised at all the people on the invite. That's a lot of people you've corralled into this.
Yeah, I was able to grab a bunch of names, and I'm hoping that a lot of people will at least be able to start getting information from us. Depending upon how the leadership committee shapes up, I'm hoping we'll be able to get a correspondence individual that will be capable of going in and helping generate a newsletter to send out. That can kind of be just general information that we'll put out every so often, and then otherwise would just be information about what we're accomplishing.
Okay.
It looks like we have Hina and Charlie, or Charlie, not 100%. Welcome to you both. Diana. Awesome. So yes, as everyone is coming in, just make sure that you are muted and that you will go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat so that everyone else knows your name, where you're from, and your decided involvement. I personally have all that from the Google form I sent out, but we just want to make sure that everyone else is kind of aware of what you'll be doing and kind of what your interests are within joining the committee. Let's see, I'll go ahead and wait a couple minutes before adding people in. And in the meantime, we'll try to see why this won't let me present this.
Che, while you do that, I'd like to reach out to Diana and say congratulations on your huge win. That out of all the races at convention, that absolutely made my day. For those of you who don't know, Diana Branson won STEC 12. First time we've had a Tarrant County person in that seat in 6 years.
Well, thank you. Hopefully y'all can hear me.
Yes.
Okay.
You're here because I insisted Che invite you because of the line about the trees in your resume. And I said, there's a good person to put on that committee right there.
Oh yeah, that is one thing that is near and dear to my heart. So I got like about 400 trees that we put up in our neighborhood and parks area. So and we do community cleanups quite often. So you know, we just got to do what we can when we can.
Definitely. Thank you very much for that work. That's actually incredible. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, I'm just glad to be here and that you're organizing this. So thank you for doing this. It's about time we get a sustainability and environmental activity going on. So thank you for stepping up.
Yeah, of course. I'm really glad that Carol was willing to help me get this established and been just kind of keeping on and making sure that we can get as much accomplished as possible. Okay, so we currently have about 11 people, so I'll just wait until a little after 5:05 before starting, and we'll see how that all turns out. Hopefully we'll get a good turnout. There were like 30 people on the list, so 50-50 overall. Some of the individuals that initially were interested in leadership committee positions appeared to have gotten had time conflicts, so I'll continue contacting them. I'm hoping that we can begin to establish this about to be occurring once or the second Wednesday of every month, and seemingly 5 o'clock should be okay. I'll kind of go ahead and send another email later on to determine when other people are available, and I'll mention this again at the end to make sure that we're all good to go on that. And also after the meeting, and I'll reiterate this again at the end, I'll be sending out a Google form that will just be asking for when in the future all of you would be available to continue meeting, and to ensure that we're all able to kind of get on the same page with what we're doing moving forward, so that we're able to give your availability. Also, I'll put in a section to be able to have you offer speakers if any of you know individuals that be willing to speak for future meetings, as well as any kind of organizations, and I'll go into that further later on. But a large component of what we'll be doing is partnerships, so I'm hoping that we can get a lot of group involvement to be able to expand our efforts as much as possible. Okay.
I want to introduce myself. I think it says on my screen, my picture, Kathy Clark. Is that what you see?
Yes.
I'm not Kathy. That's my wife. I'm Carrie. Kathy, I think, is the Zoom member, so that's why it comes out. But it's great to see you, and thank you so much for putting this together, Chayton. I think this is long overdue.
Thank you very much, Gary. I'm really glad to hear that. And it is, I definitely agree. Oh, yes. As Charlie is saying, you can change your name in, you click on your image and there are 3 dots. There'll be a little like rename option. So you can go ahead and do that
Okay.
if you'd like.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, how's it going?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Here I am.
Thanks. Glad you're here. Okay, so we will go ahead and get started. So welcome to the first meeting of the Tarrant County Sustainable Democrats. Most of you have already gone ahead and introduced yourselves in chat. If you haven't yet, just kind of make sure that you're able to do that and let everyone know who you are, where you're from, And if you want to a little bit about yourself, I think with future endeavors, we'll probably be able to increase our social interactions. So, and if anyone's interested in us generating some kind of Slack room or group chat so that we can communicate about efforts, please go ahead and also let me know about that in chat, and we can start working to make that happen. So, first step is making sure that we're all on the same page. The mission statement for the Tarrant County Sustainable Democrats is to ensure that the Tarrant County Democratic Party works to create a sustainable Tarrant County through party and policy action. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the concept of sustainability. I'm sure if you joined, then most likely you are relatively familiar. So I'll get to that in a moment. To begin, we'll kind of discuss what the vision of the committee is. These are kind of main points that on the proposal for this committee I wrote out. So first, on today's meeting, afterwards, again, I'll be sending out the Google form to make sure that we're all able to fill out information to say when we're all available. And then we'll continue doing monthly meetings. Once a leadership committee has been established, we'll also begin generating committees for that as well, or I'm sorry, separate meetings for that as well. Another major component is transitioning party offices and any related offices to renewable energy. Currently for the party itself, that is kind of a influx position as there's kind of some change that will be occurring in the near future. So kind of holding off on that, and as things progress, I'll be sure to keep my ear to the ground and know what's going on and inform the rest of you when we start actually taking action on that, so that if any of you as individuals might have information, maybe you have friends that work in the renewable energy sector that you know would be able to kind of help with that transition. Otherwise, there are a few resources that I'm aware of that we'll begin working with the county party to ensure that all offices are capable of not running on fossil fuels. Another component is that I would hope to keep up this virtual meeting space as long as possible. On that Google form I'll send out, this will be another component to one of the questions on there. I just want to make sure that we're all kind of comfortable. Personally, I kind of get that personal emissions aren't necessarily that large of an input, but as a point of personal contingency, it seems more logical to ensure that we are doing this with as little fossil fuel emissions as possible. And so by ensuring that we're able to meet virtually and have that as a meeting space, and if we need to, as we grow, we can start meeting in person. And preferably what would occur would be we would start kind of establishing working groups within specific regions where a fair amount of members share a locality where meeting is not too difficult for them and is of relatively close proximity so that the drive is a lot smaller. And then we can kind of have larger virtual meetings that kind of allow for individual working groups to report back and for us to kind of have discussions there. Another component and that might be like a secondary part, we might have working group meetings to where the leadership of working groups would be capable of communicating. We'll kind of see how things turn out as we progress and as actions are actually starting to begin to be taken. Another component is kind of ensuring that we can work with the county party to help reduce our waste. This is something that a lot of the Democratic Party on local levels and state levels tends to not have too much oversight on. But while doing a little bit of research with the DNC, there actually is a fair amount of sustainability that's involved in their work, or at least that they're reporting for the 2020 convention. So we'll kind of see how that turns out, depending on what occurs by that time convention is held. But I'm hoping that that becomes something that we're able to ensure that the party is able to take a positive action towards. And here's a major tenet of what we're doing. We need to be ensuring that the idea of sustainability is put out to as many people as possible in the area, and that we do that by working through the realm of the Democratic Party in the area to partner with individuals so that we can empower them within the electoral politics system and ensure that they are granted as much of a voice in ensuring their own personal rights, as well as having the information and understanding to advocate for environmental rights. And that's kind of what will bring us to our next topic, which is discussing what really is sustainability. Again, I'm sure a lot of you know, but this has kind of become a large portion of how I've come to understand it. That's made it a lot easier for me to talk with people about it, because it is kind of a vague topic. And so the main concept is that we're able to meet the needs of today without compromising the needs of tomorrow. This is basically saying that through resource management and looking at the ability for our workforces and individuals participating in our society, that they're getting what is needed for them now, and we are considering how over a long time course those things will change. The main way that it's kind of considered, at least within the framework of the United Nations, has been the utilization of the 5 Ps, which are people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. This allows for us to advocate both for citizens and members of our various countries or states, and allows them to have what's required for them to exist with the least amount of, I guess, struggle in the long run when it comes to at least the system in place, because inherently life is kind of a struggle no matter how you cut it. And that will allow those individuals to be able to actually actively take part in ensuring that our environment is protected in the future, because the environment is really one of the shared spaces of understanding that every human being has, that allows for us to effectively care for one another and to be able to work towards a brighter future. And so something that I'm really excited about, and I can't stop talking about enough when I'm talking with other Democrats, is that during the convention, the Texas State Democratic Party went ahead and changed their platform. There were a bunch of Bernie delegates that got on and were running the platform committee essentially. And so they added the Green New Deal and Medicare for All to the Texas Democratic Party platform, which are 2 huge components to ensuring that we're focusing on all of the 5 Ps. I'm really excited for what that will allow us as Democrats in the Tarrant County area to do, and especially to strengthen our bond with the state party and the environmental caucus to ensure that we are being as effective as possible at making both of those angles possible. I do also understand that both of these pieces of legislation still definitely have some flaws to them, and there are some things that need to be worked out, but they are extremely amazing frameworks for us to examine how exactly things will be able to be accomplished for us to become a more sustainable society and country in the future. And that also kind of takes me to my next point, which is discussing the original starting point for this committee. I learned about the Sustainable Development Goals that the United Nations has generated, and there's something that are kind of encapsulated between the Green New Deal and the Medicare for All plan, as well as a host of other legislative pieces of legislation that currently exist. But these 17 goals really thoroughly examine everything that occurs within a society that allows for it to exist as it does, and then says, well, what if we wanted to ensure that every member of a society was able to work together to actually achieve every individual's most sustainable life? And so it kind of, you'll see 1 through 5 as well as 10 all kind of focus on the idea of the individual within society. A lot of the others, like 6 through 9, 11, and 12, all focus on component parts of things that directly relate to the idea of environmentalism, but still kind of focus more on the component of the necessities of the individual to be able to live sustainably without there being societal kickback. And then 13 through 17, we get a really good examination of what really goes into ensuring that we as environmentalists or just members of society are actively doing our part to go back and ensure that the needs of today are met without compromising the needs of tomorrow. And it's a really great framework that I believe I would like to work with. It's a good way to kind of collect data as well for us to see within Tarrant County issues that exist and where we can improve. Currently, there is a United Nations Regional Center for Expertise that exists for the North Texas area. They currently have focused on good health and well-being, quality education, and sustainable cities and communities. So they have created initiatives that allow for those 3 goals to be worked on in our area. And we hope that they're capable of progressing a fair amount. I still think that there's still a fair amount of work to be done on every single one of these 17 goals. And the beauty of being a part of a political party as opposed to a intergovernmental organization is that we have the ability to more directly impact a local area and to ensure that we are really changing what needs to change for us to focus on people on the planet at the very least, prior to considering the rest of the 5 Ps. So on the concept of focusing on people, considering the current events that are going on, I think it's important that we kind of discuss the idea of environmental justice. This image was taken from the Instagram account of Leah Thomas. She has the Instagram handle Green Girl Leah. She is currently an environmental advocate that has been organizing for a few years, and she has switched her lens to focusing on the idea of intersectional environmentalism, which is the idea that, kind of like what the Sustainable Development Goals focus on, as well as going back to the 5 Ps, stops looking at environmentalism from just the lens of having a focus on the environment and truly seeing how the environment impacts and interacts with every human life, and how, due to the inequities that exist within our society, we are truly incapable of taking effective action for environmental change because the kind of systemic issues that are brought into the realm of environmentalism still persist in that space. And it still allows for there to be a large amount of inaction, because the true requirements right now are that we're all advocating for not just clean air, but complete overhauls of our waste systems, our environmental protection systems. And when you kind of examine, at least nationally, I've done a little bit of research for the area of Tarrant County, and currently it appears that there's insufficient data due to how they've examined things for environmental and class racism or class injustice that occurs. You kind of see that communities of color and impoverished communities tend to have nationally a larger amount of environmental hazards that exist in their lives, whether that's dirty air that comes from nearby facilities that work with coal, oil, or other such assorted fossil fuels that generate particulates in the air that impact the lives of those nearby communities, or whether that's you look at the water quality that exists for those communities, or the land quality that you see in those areas from prior industries that had existed there and created brownfields. There's a really large discrepancy between middle class and up white Americans and everyone else. And that's something that, through the lens of sustainability as well as intersectional environmentalism, allows us to kind of re-examine exactly how to take action to ensure that a sustainable future is achieved by granting equity in every facet of our society, so that you're improving the environmental outcomes of the communities that are currently on the front lines. And that's something that, until we are actively taking part in changing through, and I know you're all here most likely due to the fact that you are taking part in a large portion of what's going on to help change that. But for the idea of communicating with others, it's kind of the point that we need to be working towards ensuring an equitable society before we can truly impact the environment, because it is those same systems that generate those systemic inequities that allow for our environment to get destroyed. It's the ideas that individuals that have needlessly utilized their power to benefit themselves and their friends have resulted in everyone else and the planet getting decimated in the process. So that's kind of a large portion of what I'm hoping to accomplish with this committee, and that's why there's a large focus on the idea of community organizing outreach and ensuring that we're empowering as many individuals as possible within the Democratic Party so that they're willing to take party action, as well as fully voting in our abysmal turnout for our yearly and bi-yearly municipal elections, which is really, the city of Fort Worth is kind of awkward with that, and I'll kind of go into, or it's awkward with the environmental component of their work that they do, and I'll kind of go into that a little bit in a moment, but that is something that through our work we would be capable of helping stifle and actively working to generate what is required of our leaders to do what is necessary to generate a sustainable community.
Question.
Yes, Dan.
Would you mind putting up the vision and mission statement again?
Yeah. So our mission statement again is to ensure that the Tarrant County Democratic Party works to create a sustainable Tarrant County through party and policy action.
Who created that?
I did.
Is that something that's that we could conceivably look at some point as far as a group?
It could be something that we discuss later on. We can kind of get into questions here in a little bit as we get to the end to kind of go more in depth with it as a group.
Right. I was just saying that. How did you come up with that particular one?
We are an advisory committee within the Tarrant Democratic Party, or Tarrant County Democratic Party, and that allows for us to be able to take actions similarly to a regular subgroup, but it also means that we are working under the leadership of the TCDP. And so a focused effort is how this group is capable of helping generate a sustainable future through the party itself.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. And did you still need me to go back to the vision?
Just momentarily, please.
Okay. I'll kind of leave that up for a second. And these are, as I'll kind of get into again in a second, our first main points will be the establishment of a schedule, discussion on our virtual meetings, our partnerships with the local communities, and ways that we'll kind of educate party members as well as the general public through the community organization outreach that we do. Those are the main points that I'm wanting to focus on now, and I feel like those are the most achievable over the course of 2020.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to kind of go back to that just to refresh it was all.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so and that actually kind of leads perfectly into my next point, which was that those 4 points were the most achievables and were the ones that I felt we will be focusing on for the near future. Again, there will be a Google form sent out to cover the issue of us generating a meeting schedule. Again, I hope that we're capable of maintaining a virtual meeting schedule whenever we can. And if we are able to expand to a point that we are able to generate working groups that are community specific or are location specific, I do intend for us to work to make a system that will allow for that to occur. That does generate a little bit of hierarchical issues that I think can easily be overcome through some discussions, but I do believe that it is an achievable. And also, yes, Charlie, I do believe that a Slack channel is definitely going to be in our near future. And I can generate that and send that in email for tonight. A main point that I will go on to on the next slide is this increasing of local community organization partnerships. The idea of our increased education and support of sustainability is something I'll kind of cover here in a second as well, but isn't as fully fleshed out yet because we are kind of in need of figuring out the most effective means. Currently, through what I see, that would be working to have the party kind of host sustainability related events where we can have virtual conferences or various forms of party sponsored sustainability discussions. I do know that once we have a communications chair that would be capable of assisting with social media, or we are able to find an individual that would be, or several people even, that would be willing to work together on the social media component, that we'd be able to start hosting and then pushing out information for everyone that explains sustainability and relates it back to various current event topics. Since this idea is extremely far reaching and goes into a lot of what occurs within our society. And the Hillary, for the text rail point, I will need you to elaborate on that in the chat if you can. So currently, the partnerships that I'm hoping to focus on, just because these are really large organizations in the area doing things that I believe we'd be able to work with, are going to be the Community Frontlines organization, which focuses on communities of color across Fort Worth, and tries to help also fight for justice within those communities. United My Justice and United Fort Worth, which are both organizations that have been helping to rally for the Black Lives Matter movement at the moment in Fort Worth, and have been doing a really good job. Okay, thank you on that for that, Hillary. That would be text rail for getting into downtown. So yes, once we get to the meetings component, we will definitely be going ahead and figuring out where the meetings locations will be based off of membership locations. Community aid organizations that exist currently, one of the ones that I'm in most favor of is called Opal's Garden. The concept is they want to help eliminate the existence of food deserts by generating community gardens. This is something that through some legislative action can expedite the process by generating a ordinance or something along those lines that would allow for an increase in community gardening and on public land, to allow for any community that sees the need and has the expertise to be able to go and establish that. And so with Opal's Garden as a place for us to volunteer and to support the voice of, as well as for the Black, Indigenous, people of color organizations that I mentioned prior, that we would be able to help bolster their message while also being able to offer them information on the intersection of environmentalism and what they're working on. And some nonpartisan organizations that are environmental would be the Greater Fort Worth Area Sierra Club and 350.org Fort Worth. I'm a member of both of those, and the main reason that I bring those up is that both are currently working on intersectional environmentalism and promoting those ideals, and both are currently going to be working on the creation of a near future legislative piece that I will be working with both organizations to generate. And I would like to kind of bring that into our space, because I believe that everyone here has a fair amount of information they can offer. And on that note, with working with those environmental groups, there currently is the idea to create a potential comprehensive environmental and climate action plan. This is something that the city of Dallas was able to pass last Wednesday, or potentially the Wednesday prior. Time does not make sense anymore, so I apologize for not knowing the exact date. But the concept was that it was a legislative framework that would allow the city of Dallas to slowly remove its reliance on fossil fuels, to work on community improvements, and to ensure that there was a larger focus on generating a sustainable Dallas. And the city of Fort Worth has been dragging its feet on the creation of an environmental master plan for about 6 years now, and has been effectively working on the concept for the past roughly 2 years now. And after the pandemic began, they stopped putting in the effort on that environmental master plan, and the legislation, as far as I know, has stalled. No one has been getting any information on it. And so I believe that by being a part of generating that, we will be capable of effectively getting more people involved with its creation, so that we can generate something that is just for the community, and we will be able to create a better piece of legislation with more individuals working on giving us input. We currently have also 2 candidates that were interested in kind of being more involved with our group. One of them is here tonight. That would be Kathy Bratz, who is running for County Commissioner in Precinct 3. Kathy, if you wanted to go ahead and talk for 2 minutes and kind of give some information on what you would like to see through the lens of sustainability within our County Commissioner's office, that would be great.
Okay, I unmuted myself. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I was really excited to hear about this group starting. So just real quick about me, my name is Kathy Bratz, and I'm running for Tarrant County Commissioner Precinct 3, which is Northeast Tarrant County. So I'm a veteran and I'm a precinct chair. I'm a voter registrar. I'm a precinct chair through the end of this month. And I'm also president of Northeast Tarrant Democrats. I've been a quality engineer for over 24 years, so I have a lot of experience with digging into complex problems and implementing, solutions, and especially looking for proactive solutions and proactive activities to avoid issues in the future. So I'm running against an entrenched, ultra-conservative incumbent. He's been in the office since 2006. And I'm really interested in finding out and working with you guys on what type of things can be implemented at the county level. I know that the county has a huge carbon footprint with all of the county vehicles that they have. So I'm not sure what we can do about that, because obviously, they have a fleet of vehicles already, but maybe we can, as they replace them, maybe we can look at more vehicles that have less emissions. And I know that they already build all the new buildings to the LEED requirements. So I did talk to Commissioner Brooks, and he said that they do have some sustainability efforts in work, but a lot of that is new stuff. So I'm just interested to find out what else we can work with on the Commissioner's Court to get to a more sustainable environment. And just my part, I always say that my part to the sustainability effort to date is that I don't have children, so I'm not populating, and I drive a Tesla. So I try to reduce my emissions as much as possible. Of course, I haven't been driving it very much because I haven't been going anywhere. But anyway, again, thank you guys. And I'm really interested in continuing to learn more about sustainability and what the county can do to implement policies that will in the future for that concept. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Kathy. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Another order of business will be that we currently have a logo that I designed. I would enjoy input on this. We're working on submitting it to Deborah to get her approval so that we're able to go ahead and start using this on social media and other pieces of whatever we're putting out in the public. But yes, for a little background on it, I was in my backyard and saw a blue jay and also some cardinals, and for some reason my brain went to Republican and Democrat birds, and stemming from that I was like, well, I need to come up with a logo for the sustainability committee, and did a little research on blue jays to find out that they're actually really great to have within an ecosystem, because what happens is they tend to alert other birds of predators and to help ensure that the area is kind of kept safe just by a happenstance of how they work as within their own groups. And so it's really exciting to kind of consider that we are trying to kind of bring awareness to a lot of things that need to occur, and are working on alerting everyone else to some other systemic issues and flaws that we may not necessarily consider as much. So I am excited to have the blue jay as our symbol.
I think it's great. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you all very much. And thank you very much, Carrie and Charlie. I will go ahead and, actually now that I kind of think about that, having some contrast to the lettering would probably be a little bit better. So I will definitely go ahead and work through that. I have a little bit less than a minute left, so I'm going to go ahead and drop my information here for everyone. The sustainability@tarrantdemocrats.org is an email that I'm considering to be more logical to utilize for contacts with people within the Texas Democratic Party, so as well as the general public, so that it kind of allows a lot easier information flow. So my personal email, or if you want to call or text me, then that would also be a pretty good way to get a hold of me, just because my phone is a lot less busy